audience. Welcome to our session today. I'm Hiroyoshi Kawa, the founding CEO of Treasure Data. Today, I have a very special fortune to welcome the founding CEO of arguably the hottest company on the planet right now, Yuan of Zoom Video Communication. I'm sure that I don't really have to explain anything about what Zoom is like and who he is. But let me give you just a little bit of background of our friendship. As the most people in the audience might be very curious about why Treasure Data CEO and founder talks to Zoom CEO. In fact, Eric was actually one of our very first angel investors in Treasure Data. That when we started the company, Treasure Data, in Silicon Valley back in 2011, he was one of our very first seed investors who cut a sizable check for us to get going. And of course, almost at the same time, slightly before Treasure Data, he started his own company too. Since then, he has been my longtime friend and entrepreneurial mentor as well. And we shared a lot of early investors, and way of his management style became a kind of compass for my entrepreneurial life, right? Of course, we tried, our own product to each other. Zoom definitely helps us, Treasure Data, keep our worldwide operation, and from very early days, and Zoom now become the company. Right, even under this tragic pandemic, to really keep everyone connected. Literally, almost everyone on the planet can remain socially sober, connected, right? Thanks to Zoom. And even my household, for example, like my wife and the kids at school, and I myself keep up, quote unquote, a normal life because of Zoom. And now, Zoom is becoming even a verb, right? Such as Googling or the tweeting. Now we are all Zooming at home, now. And what I really like about Eric is that there's always a humility that comes out of himself, even after being such a successful, right? The company CEO, that I really feel that makes Zoom what it is today. So Eric, thank you very much for your time today and joining me to this session.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate your time. I think you are so right. Over the past several years, both of us, we started a company at the same time. Yeah. I'm a very happy investor. Also, thank you for your great work and leadership. Give me a great return. I truly appreciate. I know both of us, we learn from each other over the past several years. That's why I truly cherish the friendship. Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Of course. I think it's been a while since we met last time, when I think we had a joint podcast session with Bill Tai. I think it was last Christmas. But since then, I couldn't really express how amazed I was to really see my friend company Zoom has become such a blockbuster company and truly the center of everything, right? So let's move on to the questions. How do you feel about being the CEO of that company that is really truly harnessing the entire world, under this COVID, the pandemic?
I think first of all, to be a CEO of a startup company, it's always challenging. Every day you are facing all kinds of new challenges, new problems, right? You also need to motivate yourself, motivate your team, and to really kind of make sure, that the team always have energy, right? To handle all kinds of uncertainties. This pandemic crisis is completely, I would say, is unprecedented, right? It's sort of like a disaster, right? And on many fronts. And also from our perspective, on the one hand, we are very excited because we have an opportunity to help the world, help people stay connected. On the other hand, I can tell you internally also there are full of challenges.
Yeah.
For example, we need to add to more and more servers, keep the service up, users coming from all over the world, and not only for business use case, but also the consumer use case. How can you embrace that, right? And also our employees work from home for such a long time, how to handle the mental health,
of course,
and depression. It's pretty challenging being a CEO and during this pandemic crisis.
I completely agree. Yeah. Great. So I know that our audience here, I believe mostly in Japan, has been curious how, first of all, you started the company and how Zoom is built. Right? I remember that you once led the engineering team, a very large engineering team at Webex before and even after being acquired by Cisco, right? And executive position, within such a big company was certainly, of course, tough job, but in a sense, cozy and comfortable for everyone as well, right? And the many people thought that video conference, first of all, right, industry itself was effectively kind of done once with the only several the tool available, such as, for example, Webex, Skype, or GoToMeeting. And I'm very sure that many people, such as people from large corporations or media or even Sandhill VCs, right, are initially skeptical about your startup idea. Of course, everyone knows that that you led the engineering team to build the Webex for sure, but restarting the same thing again, or how come you decided to reinvent the video conferencing systems and later ensured the success of Zoom to become such a blockbuster, right? Any founding and growth stories to share with the audience?
Sure. I think before I share how I founded Zoom, maybe I share a little bit of personal story because that is also associated with Japan.
Yeah.
Because I live in Yokohama, 1995, for 4 months. Every morning I took the train to go to Tokyo, because I participated in a training, program sponsored by, Japan government. And I think I remember once over the, I think that's an event, industry event, the Microsoft CEO, the Bill Gates, he was there. And he gave a speech about the future of internet, a lot of things. I was so inspired by his speech. And I realized, wow, internet will be the future. So that's why finally I decided I should go to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
That's why I moved to Silicon Valley in 1997, joined the Webex as one of the first several founding engineers. I can tell you for the first several years, I worked so hard, because I was very young at that time, around the clock, sometimes Friday night, I even did not sleep for several years. And the company went public year 2000, Webex, and then the company sold to Cisco 2007. I stayed at Cisco for another several years as Cisco's corporate vice president. However, the year before I left, every morning when I woke up, I was not happy. I did not want to go to office at all. Because I was corporate vice president, right? When I was in a bad mood, right? Because I did not feel happy, the impact to my team, to family members, it's huge, right? The reason why I was not happy was that every day when I talked with the Webex customer at that time, I did not see a single happy customer. The reason why Webex was built for the data collaboration. But back to 2010, 2011 timeframe, people talk about video conferencing, talk about mobile, talk about attendees coming from all over the world. How can you guarantee the quality, the video and the voice? I realized there's no way to tweak Webex. You have to build new solution from the ground up. So it took me 1 year. I failed to convince the management team, and that's why I decided to leave. However, you are so right. Cisco, the corporate vice president, is paid very well. This is a great job. Even my wife mentioned, why do you want to quit? This is a great job. Why you want to start over? Including many of my friends, right? And it's
I don't blame her at all.
It's very hard. In our case, even not like in your case, because a lot of friends they think that you have great vision, build the terabyte data. When I build a new solution like video conferencing, almost every VC told me that, what? Are you going to build a new solution? That's already commodity market and there's so many big legacy players. No VCs, wanted to do support. I had to also get the seed funding from friends. And then that's how we started. The goal is just to build a new solution to deliver happiness back to the Webex. It's very simple. So that's how I started.
Yeah. Any like the interesting stories to share about like how you really competed against in a sense old friends?
That's a great question. So first of all, that's a big, very well established players. When we build a solution, if you think about competing against them, I can tell you, no engineers wanted to join me, and no investor wanted to invest. They all got scared. They have a very market share 50% and a big brand, have all the resources. That's why our approach is we don't look at the competitors. We try to tell customers we are building a new solution better than any others. We understand your pain point. We are the first vendor to give you a solution to address your pain point. So that's why even today, by and large, we do not look at it from competitor perspective. Otherwise, you are going to probably get so paranoid because, oh my God, it's a huge competitor. That's why lesson I learned is to focus on your customers, focus on users. Don't pay too much attention to your competitors.
That is great tip for any entrepreneurs on the planet. Of course, for those who are in Japan too. I mean, don't pay too much attention to your competitors, right? Like just focus on making your customers happy. For sure.
Because what if your competitors they made a mistake? They are doing something not right. If you copy what they are doing, might drive you into the wrong direction as well.
Yeah, of course, that's great. And then finally, obviously, like Zoom became a very big phenomena, right? And I also wanted to send my personal kudos and congratulations on the number of features, and the projects launched at the Zoomtopia, I think last week, right? This month. Obviously, like Zoom is now like not only changing the way how the business is managed. And also like it really influences everything, education, social life under COVID circumstance. And also like at the same time, everyone feels like, a little bit of the, pandemic fatigue, right? And hopeful that like vaccine arrives as soon as possible. That really helps us back to what we used to be in a normal life. However, at the same time, the entire population of the world now like experience how we can really actually manage a lot of things without even moving ourselves around. Of course, Zoom plays a very big role, or probably the biggest role in this. What's your thought on how Zoom is keeping the business and a life connected, right? Of course, it's obviously obvious under the COVID, but even after COVID-19 crisis, how is the world going to look like after this pandemic, and how Zoom is going to continue playing this very important role?
Yeah, you're so right. I think first of all, we got to focus on our company, the core value, which is the care, meaning care about the community, customer, company, teammates, as well as ourselves. Take our users in Japan, for example. First of all, I want to thank all of our users, customers in Japan. I truly appreciate for their great support, great ideas. I think the top 3 countries with most of the visitors to our website: US #1, India #2, Japan #3. Great customer feedback, great partners like NEC, Rakuten, Rakuten CIO Hiro-san is my great friend, also advisor, SoftBank. They all give us great feedback. As long as we emphasize on caring about the customers, sit down to understand, what they are going to, require us, right, to focus on, to innovate, I think we'll be okay. Take the future workplace, for example. I talk with many customers. They all want to understand after the pandemic crisis, are we all going back to the office, or will we keep working from home? Maybe the hybrid. So we think should be the hybrid, meaning after the post-pandemic, probably several days at home, several days in office. The truth like this will stay. We have to improve the overall experience when you go back to the office, like a conference room experience, and also like a hybrid, how to make sure you still can engage employee effectively to support this hybrid working mode. I think that is something we are really, I think, caring about, right? And again, the philosophy will be stay as close as possible with your users, with your customers. I think we can have more and more innovations even after the post-pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, like, that even talking about Treasure Data, we recently decided to basically finish our rent with the large office in Tokyo and Mountain View. Of course, like, we are going to find another kind of other homes for those locations, but with more like a mindset of having the great workplace to get together as opposed to keep working, right? The remote work really can work. This is the biggest learning that that we found, and also like a lot of others for sure are feeling.
But also, you cannot let employees always work from home, because you also need a social interaction, right? The human nature. We need to get it together. That's why several days in the office, several days in the at home. That's probably the perfect,
Yeah, I agree. Great. And then I'm definitely looking forward to continuing seeing how Zoom plays in such a kind of new environment for sure. Yeah, great. So the shifting of gear a little bit. So now a lot of businesses, right, are forced to change their way of thinking, how to market, how to really connect with their customers, consumers, market. Then under this kind of new norm, we all know that ways of building trust in their brand or product or communication with the customers are going to change. So I have probably two questions. One is that how have the method of the brands, or companies' brands, gaining the trust that changed from COVID-19 to the post COVID? And also the second question is, what challenges do companies face in gaining trust in a post-pandemic world? Now, obviously, the way, not just a business, but also the way to shop things around, or how to really influence people with the new products or concept itself is supposed to be changed big time, right? So what's your thought about how to really gain the trust in the new norm?
Yeah. I would say the trust is everything. It's the cornerstone to build the relationship with customers, right? If there's no trust, no matter what you do, say you are going to introduce a new feature, customers say, I do not trust this brand, I do not trust this company, I do not want to try that, right? So also, if they do not trust you, even if they're using your product, they don't want to send you feedback, right? They do not feel like they are part of the community. So if you want to make sure your customers or partners be a part of the overall very healthy ecosystem, you have to gain the trust. Right? That's the number one thing. But how to gain the trust? It's very different, right? Especially if you have users all over the world, right? They may not know you well. One thing I think we learned over the many years, specifically over the past 3 months, is make sure everything you are doing is open and transparent. Share with your customers why you had this problem, what's your plan to fix that, how you can improve, right, and so on and so forth. Like last week, we had our annual user conference. The goal is to make sure share with our customers what we learned over the past 12 months, what kind of progress we made, and what's our plan for the future. Before we finalize plan, we want to solicit the feedback from them. This is the way to build the trust. Right? If trust exists, no matter what kind of challenge you are facing, constantly, I want to give this friend, I want to give you treasure data time because I trust you, right?
Yeah,
That's very important. If no trust, there's no way to build a sustainable and business. Take a lot of brand, for example. Why I like Lexus? Why I like Sony? Because it's a very trustable brand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the brand building itself is, is in a sense the key for a lot of consumer brands. And then obviously the people have to be really, really flexible about, in a sense, transforming their way of building trust, even after the COVID, right? After people experiencing a new way of interacting with the brands and the products for sure. Yeah. And then I saw the sessions of the Zoomtopia, which is amazing. Actually, I'm personally observing that there are a lot of businesses, right, starting to leverage the remote video conferencing or communication per se. Of course, mainly Zoom, but also a few other tools, in a sense, to really transform their business. For example, I always enjoy your quarterly earnings call over Zoom, right? It now sounds obvious, but it's actually very new, right, to a lot of investors. And then I personally invested in a company in Texas using a Zoom for the remote retail shoppers, not really traditional e-commerce, but more like a real apparel shops enabled by Zoom to really market the products to customers remotely at home, right? And then obviously my 9-year-old daughter is always using Zoom-enabled tools for friends communication, meaning education's another area that Zoom brings a lot of impact to. So is there any other concrete interesting cases of companies or tools using Zoom to sustain their business, or even in a sense create the brand new business values by using Zoom or the remote communications?
Yeah, so I think during this pandemic crisis, there are so many brand new use cases, right?
Yeah.
From a yoga class to the online dancing class, right?
Yeah.
And to look at the Emmys Award, right? And to the Saturday night, the show, right? From a quantitative NBA players, right? They look at it, use Zoom for the watch the team practice, and all kinds of new use cases. I think several new use cases. I'm personally so impressed. One is, I would say a Zoom marriage is legal.
Marriage, wow.
New York, right? You can get married on Zoom platform. As long as I heard about that story, I say, wow, that's very cool, right?
That's cool.
Another use case is I also for doctor, telemedicine, telehealth. One company, Redwood City, they use the Zoom platform to connect the patient in other countries before they're going through a surgery. They talk to the best doctor here. And plus, for my doctor, I only had one doctor appointment over the past 7 months. Also use this the video conferencing. I think telemedicine, telehealth, online class. I think those use cases will stay, especially for telemedicine. It will completely change the people's lives. Because you don't need to travel, right? To take several hours to go to doctors, right? And with telemedicine, telehealth, I think the patient could be anywhere in the world. The doctor can be here or can be in Tokyo.
That's great. Especially, obviously, the Japan has probably the much better healthcare system, but when it comes to our country, US, right? That is a drastic change, right? Without driving or making appointment, right? That we can definitely always meet with the doctors. That is amazing, Great. So, but I think it looks the time is up. But do you have any last comment to the audience in Japan, Eric?
Yeah, I think the Japanese culture is about the teamwork, creativity. I know there's a lot of great young entrepreneurs, right? I would say, hey, just do it. Similar to what you did, right? When you started the company in 2011, you had a vision, just do it. And then it turned out it's very successful, right? Hopefully there will have more and more entrepreneurs and from Japan, and I think I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Eric, you have been so generous to take your time with me today. I appreciate the friendship for sure. Thank you again, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you for all the users from Japan. I truly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.